What if everything holding you back from learning Portuguese isn't actually true? Those thoughts telling you that Portuguese is just too hard, they're not facts. They are myths that are stealing your chance at wonderful experiences here in Portugal. And I can prove it in under 10 minutes. Because right now, while you're believing these lies, my students are out chatting with their Portuguese neighbours, volunteering at local charities, and building the community life that you are dreaming of. So today I'm tackling the 5 most unhelpful myths that are keeping learners stuck and showing you exactly what works instead. My name is Liz, and over the past 5 years, I've taught hundreds of students to go from struggling with basic Portuguese to having confident conversations. And what I've learned is that the biggest barriers aren't actually about Portuguese, they're all about the lies we tell ourselves about what it takes to learn it. And I can say this with confidence because I've seen the same limiting beliefs holding people back over and over again until they learn to question them. So let's start with myth number 1, which is I should wait until I move to Portugal to start learning. Now, this might be the most limiting belief of all. People think that their move is a long way away and that it makes much more sense to learn when they get here, as if they'll somehow pick it up by osmosis. But one of the most common things I hear when people come to me to start learning is, I wish I'd started sooner. Sharon, my student who relocated solo from West Virginia to the Algarve, started learning Portuguese while she was still in the US. And here is what she told me about arriving in Portugal.
Truly, if I had it to do all over again, I would have started much sooner, as soon as I had the impulse to look into moving to Portugal. The course keeps you engaged. I mean, even if you're not in Portugal, if you're in the United States, because of the community, you're still engaged with the language.
Compare that to what happens when you wait. You arrive overwhelmed, dealing with bureaucracy, finding housing, setting up utilities, and now you're supposed to learn Portuguese on top of all that chaos. Remote learning before you arrive actually gives you more structured practice than hoping to pick it up once you get here. And what's more, if you arrive with some confidence in your Portuguese, you are automatically setting yourself up for success, which is going to make you feel great from the get-go instead of feeling defeated right away. If you want to see Sharon's full story of how she learned from the US and now volunteers with local charities, I did a complete case study interview with her that I'll link in the description. And if you want my top tips on learning Portuguese while you're still abroad, then this video is super helpful. I will link that in the description as well. Myth number 2, I'm too old to learn a language. And this one breaks my heart because the majority of my most successful students are of retirement age. And a lot of them had this same limiting belief, saying things like, my memory's terrible, I haven't learned a language in 50 years. So here is what I tell them. Your brain learns new information by building neural pathways. And yes, this was easier when you were a child or when you were younger because your brain was more moldable. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible as an adult. The key is just repetition. Just like learning an instrument or shooting basketball hoops, it's just another skill building process. Plus, there's actually a huge benefit to learning when you are older. It keeps your brain incredibly active. So as I said, most of my students are of retirement age and they're doing all kinds of activities in Portugal, from volunteering to going to a knitting club to helping out on remote farms. And they're not just learning Portuguese, they're building an entirely new social circle. So the reality is you have so many years ahead of you in Portugal. Are you really going to spend them stuck in an expat bubble and missing out on all this richness of Portuguese culture and friendships? I actually made an entire video debunking the too old to learn myth that I'll link in the description, and it's one of my most popular because so many people relate to this limiting belief. And if this video is resonating with you and you're ready to stop with the excuses and get started with Portuguese for real, I have created a free 60-minute lesson for beginners that covers pronunciation, real-life Portuguese as it's spoken in the streets, and only the essential grammar. It is the best introduction to conversational Portuguese that you'll find online. So just comment myths below and I'll send you the link. Myth number 3, Portuguese is too hard for English speakers. Here's the reality. Portuguese isn't harder, it's just different. And once you understand why it sounds so different, because that is the biggest hurdle for learners, it becomes much more manageable. So here's the secret. The main challenge is that Portuguese is what we call a stressed timed language, just like English. We don't stress every syllable equally like the Spanish or Italians do. Instead, we stress at regular intervals and swallow up the other sounds. So this is why como se chama becomes como se chama when spoken naturally. Once you know that this is happening, you can start to decode it and start to find those hidden sounds and syllables. The pronunciation rules are actually very consistent once you learn them, and that's why in my course, Portuguese Pro, we begin with an entire module on pronunciation, so students can learn how to pronounce words correctly, but also learn how to hear European Portuguese when it's spoken. If you want a sneak peek of what we cover inside the program, you can download my free pronunciation guide that helps you master 7 of the most difficult sounds in Portuguese. It's linked below in the description and will be the perfect starting point for you. I also have an entire video breaking down why you can't understand spoken Portuguese that explains this stress time language thing in more detail, and I'll link that in the description as well, because understanding this one concept will really transform your listening comprehension. Myth number 4, I need perfect grammar before I can speak. This one is so real because I had this limiting belief myself for years. To tackle this one, let me introduce you to my student Emile. When she started, she described herself as such a perfectionist that it would really stop her from moving forward. She was so worried about saying something wrong that she just wouldn't say anything at all. Does that sound familiar?
And I am a perfectionist, so to the point where it can stop me from moving forward. And I was worried that I would be so worried about saying something wrong that I just wouldn't say anything. And to get me to actually speak Portuguese to a Portuguese speaker, that was going to be a ginormous hurdle for me.
Here's what I told Emile and what I am telling you. Perfectionism isn't actually about having high standards, it's just procrastination dressed up. So the key mindset shift that I need you to have is that everything you do when learning Portuguese is just practice. Every mistake, every awkward sentence, every stumbled conversation, it's all just practice, and practice is supposed to be messy. Did you ride a bike the first time you tried? Could you even use a spoon when you were a kid? Of course not. We are never going to get things right the first time, but you're never going to make any progress unless you have the strength to give it a go and do it badly. I actually just made a whole video about how perfectionism kills progress in Portuguese that goes deep into this topic. I'll link that one below as well because it's such a crucial concept. Emile learned to embrace being bad at Portuguese. She accepted that she'd sound like a toddler for a while and that actually nobody cares but you. Now Emile is able to have hour-long phone conversations with her Portuguese language partner, Katia. She navigated a hospital emergency in Portuguese. She orders in restaurants, takes taxis, gets directions, all because she stopped waiting to feel ready. Another student, Jay, shared this win in our community. I talked to my Portuguese plumber about what I needed. I know I missed some grammar words and got a few tenses wrong, but he understood. It's taken me a while to be okay with letting go of my desire to speak perfect Portuguese and settle for good enough to be understood. And that is the mindset shift that changes everything. Done is better than perfect, and you're going to get better every time. Myth number 5, I need to study for years to be able to have a basic conversation. So this is where people get confused between conversational and fluent. They are not the same thing. According to the European Framework of Languages, you need to have about 200 hours of study to reach an A2 level, which is a basic conversational level. That's being able to understand frequently used expressions, communicate in routine tasks, and describe your immediate environment and needs. That's not going to take years, that's going to take months if you are consistent. Fluency, which is being able to express yourself naturally on complex topics, that does take longer. But you don't need fluency to have a rich, connected life in Portugal. You need conversation skills, and that's absolutely achievable in a shorter time frame. I have done videos explaining the difference between A2 level and fluency that breaks down exactly what each stage looks like, as well as several videos with my top tips on passing the A2 exam for citizenship here in Portugal. So if that's where you're trying to get with all of this, these videos will really help. You know where to find them. There's a whole playlist of them that is linked in the description. So here's what's really happening. These myths become self-fulfilling prophecies. When you believe Portuguese is too hard, or that you're too old, or that you need perfect grammar, you're just going to stay stuck in this analysis paralysis. You end up spending hours on language apps collecting badges instead of actually communicating. Or you put off starting until someday when conditions are perfect, and that time never comes. So the students who succeed are the ones who question these limiting beliefs and take action anyway. They understand that some discomfort is part of the process and not a sign that they should give up. So don't let these myths rob you of the experiences that are waiting for you in Portugal. The connections that Sharon has made, the confidence that Emil has built, the community involvement that my students enjoy, all of this is available to you too. So if you're ready to stop believing the lies and start with what actually works, do come along to my free 60-minute lesson for beginners that covers pronunciation, real-life Portuguese as it's spoken in the streets, and only essential grammar. It's the best introduction to conversational Portuguese you will find online. Just comment myths below and I will send you the link. And make sure to check out all those videos I mentioned. They are linked in the description and they're going to help you a ton diving deeper into all of these concepts. Your Portuguese journey doesn't have to take years or wait until you are ready. You can start today, imperfectly and proudly. I'll be back next week with more tips and tutorials to improve your confidence and conversation skills in European Portuguese, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a thing. Ciao for now.